Hey humans, it's Joycelyn. Welcome back to my channel. I'm here with a new video today sharing why I decided to quit my job and travel the world for 1 year at 23, the lessons that I learned, some of the mistakes I made, and hopefully share like tips on how you can do it too. I will have timestamps below for like different sections of the video. Feel free to skip around. I hope this will be helpful. Before we get into it, click the like button on this video. That helps me and the algorithm to share this information with other people. I would really appreciate it. And also while you're at it, feel free to click subscribe so you get all of my videos. In December of 2021, I decided that I was going through a lot personally and family-wise, and I didn't know how I was going to address all those issues while working full-time. Like, it was just a lot. And I had come to a point where I was like, maybe I should decide to leave my role. And this is a thought that I had prior to this, like way prior to this, but I never really entertained it because it didn't seem like a reality for me. When things started to hit ahead and I realized like, oh, I'm gonna have to make a decision, I ultimately felt assured in making that decision, mainly because I was getting a lump sum check. So earlier in the year, March 2021, I actually got into a car accident, which resulted in me going to physical therapy and like getting a settlement. And I knew that I would have a lump sum payment. I had ran through the numbers with one of my accounting friends, and they were like, yeah, you have the money to cover yourself for some time. So I felt assured. That year I went to 12 countries and I was super duper happy. I was actually on a quest to visit 25 countries by 25, and I'm still on that quest. I have a couple months before I have to reach all the countries, so you know, fingers crossed I'm able to make it. But I went to Mexico, I went to the Bahamas, I went to Ghana, I went to South Africa, I went to Canada, I went to Amsterdam, Brussels, Luxembourg, Paris, Germany, Istanbul. I feel like I'm missing another country, but I cannot recall right now. But essentially, I went to so many different places and I loved it. Like, it was just really good. One of the most pivotal moments on my trip was when I was in Ghana, and it was my 24th birthday, and I was literally crying, like just tears of joy, because I couldn't believe like I had made that decision. One, I was following through with it, and that I was all right, you know? Morning. I'm 24 and I'm crying. I'm so privileged to live the life that I live, to be able to be like, if I want to go to Ghana for 3 weeks, that's what I'm gonna do. If I want to go to Cape Town, that's what I'm gonna do, you know? Like, I'm here in Ghana for 2 weeks and then I'm jetting off to another country on the other side of on the other side of Africa. And it's just like, to be able to even do that, to be alone, to be traveling as frequent, as international, as comfortable as I do, you know? And it's just a privilege. First things first, would I do it again? Absolutely. I would definitely take a sabbatical or you know, some time off to travel, 100%. The only thing differently that I would do is I would save way more money. This economy, with the increase of cost of living and how expensive things are, I really do think it's important for you to have more money set aside than you think you need. Like, whatever number you think you need to cover your expenses and to travel the world, take that and add 25% onto it, just because you never know what things can pop up. You don't know you know, where life can take you. And I just think it's really important to have extra money, more than you need, than to be in a situation where you're short or you don't really have it. Like, the mistake that I made financially was that I maintained my lease on my apartment as well as my car payment while I was traveling, and that was where a majority of my money went, like maintaining my lifestyle and my household while I was abroad, just because I didn't want to break it and have to pay that fee, and I also didn't want to just like let go of the things because I didn't know how long I was actually going to be traveling for. Like, I had an idea, but I ended up staying out of work and traveling longer than I anticipated. Initially, it wasn't going to be a full year. It was going to be maybe 6 to 8 months, but I extended it. What I wanted to mention about mindset was, if you feel like your job is attached to your identity, just know that when you leave your role, you can go through some type of shift or like transitional period where you have to kind of like redefine your identity, especially with jobs that like your identity is tied to who you are and your role. Like, for example, I'm a teacher, so like being a teacher is a huge part of my life. It takes up most of my time. It's like a really big commitment and like mission in my life. So without doing that full time, I really felt like this I kind of felt a little bit of like lost and a little like, what am I doing with my life? Like, I feel like I have no direction, versus before when I was working full time, I felt like I had something I was working towards. And that took me a little bit of time to adjust to. But let me tell you, when you stop working 40 hours a week, the adjustment is quicker than you think. Let me say that. Like, I adjusted quickly, but it was definitely a shift. Like, I went through a little bit of a quarter life crisis, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in another video. I'm already in the stage in my life where we're in our 20s, we're deciding what we want to do. Do we see ourselves settling down? Where do we want to live? How do we want to move forward in the upcoming decade in our lives? And I think being out of work and traveling full time gave me a lot of clarity, one, but it also gave me a lot of anxiety. I felt like I had so many options and avenues open to me. I didn't know which path I wanted to take initially, mainly because I was just like free, like I could do what I wanted. So it didn't really feel like I had to choose, you know? Key decisions that you want to make, and I'm just looking at my notes here. Decide if you're going to be a full-time nomad or if you're just going to be traveling part-time, which is what I did. So like I mentioned earlier in the video, I had a lot of family commitments and like other things I had to attend to. So I had to physically be here at certain points. And as a result, like I said, I kept my lease, I kept my car payment, so I was just coming back and forth, traveling, going, and that was kind of like the cycle I was in. And something I probably would have done differently, I probably would have downsized my apartment to a studio, but like I said, I didn't know how long my sabbatical was going to be initially. Like I had an idea, but that was all tentative. Two, I probably would have, if you have the opportunity to travel full-time as a nomad, choose a country that you're going to like use as like your home base that's affordable but that meets the lifestyle you want, and then just travel from there if you'd like to do that as well. Because I could have saved money had I been in like some cheaper cities around the world and like just traveled from there to the destinations. I did a lot of Europe travel, so I could have chose a home base in Europe and then done that. Or I really want to explore Latin America, which is, you know, generally cost effective depending on where you're going and where you're staying. For me, in my year of not working, I actually, towards the end of the year, around August, I decided, oh, I should really move to like Turkey. And I was really considering that option. It just seemed like a really good choice for me. But like I mentioned, due to those family commitments, I was like, let me renew my lease and just stay. And that's probably something I wouldn't have done. Like I said, because of the choice I made, which is the first con of like keeping my lease in my apartment, I ended up spending most of the lump sum of money maintaining my household bills while traveling. Like majority of my travels were funded using credit card points, or just like, you know, the savings I had. But I would say probably I would say about a third of the money that I spent that year on actually traveling and trips was from the lump sum. Everything else, the 2/3 of the other money, just went to me maintaining my lifestyle and my bills. Something else you want to figure out is, where are you planning on going? Like, do you have an idea for where you want to go with your trip? Are you going to be exploring, you know, Southeast Asia? Are you going to be exploring parts of Europe and like backpack? Are you going to be checking out and trekking through Latin America? Like, it's really up to you, and you kind of have to figure that out, because that'll help you determine, number one, how much money you need, how much time it will take you to do that, and like what you're planning on doing when you're there. I think it's really important to have direction with your trips, because I've definitely had some directionless trips that I didn't fully take advantage of. Most importantly, you want to go somewhere where your money will stretch, especially if you're coming from the US, Canada, or like the UK. You want your money to go as far as possible, and if you have a stronger currency than where you're visiting, that can definitely play to your advantage. But in regards to money, let's talk about money. Like I mentioned, I was using a lump sum from a car accident to help fund my travels. I also probably had a tenth of the money that funded my year of no work come from my tax refund. So I actually got a sizable tax refund that I also used to fund this. But like I said, it wasn't like I was actively saving for this or I planned for it initially. It was mainly like I just came into some money and decided. I think one of the most important things to do when figuring out the money side of taking a sabbatical or taking a leave is how much money you're actually going to need and how are you going to save or fund that. So for me personally, like I said, I used car accident money, but for others, you may have a leave of absence at your job that you can utilize, whether that's 16 weeks. I know depending on where you work and the size of your company, you may have access to FMLA, which can be unpaid or paid depending on your state and what your company offers. I know for me, my job offered 16 weeks leave of absence paid. I didn't go that route mainly because 16 weeks wouldn't have been adequate for me to handle the things I was trying to handle. But that may be a really great option for you. Take a leave of absence, take FMLA. If you know that you want to go and you're burnt out and you need a bit of a break, highly recommend you take that. And if you have debt, your priority should be paying down your debt before you decide to embark on a year of travel or a sabbatical. For me, my only debt at the time was a car loan. So I was just paying down my car loan, which I was already ahead of schedule with paying off because I started paying down the principal. So that was really not much of my concern. So that is something else. Like if you have debt, you probably want to reconsider whether you're going to take this leave of absence and when you would actually do it, because it will definitely affect your timeline. If you're not in a good financial space, do not take a leave of absence. I'm going to tell you that now. It was very interesting to see your account balance go down monthly and money is not being replenished. That was a major shift that I had to adjust to because I'm not used to not bringing in additional money. You need to calculate how much you need to thrive on. This is not how much you need to survive. This is not the bare bones budget. This is what you need to thrive. Something I did not factor into my year of travel was friends' birthdays, weddings, and different things that you need to partake in, like holidays, Thanksgiving and Christmas, which are notoriously expensive when it comes to food and gifts for people. And I know for like my friends' events and their birthdays, we like to take birthday trips. We like to do excursions that are costly, right? So those were things I didn't factor in, and I think they really ate at my budget because I hadn't planned accurately. I calculated a number I needed to survive on, not a number I needed to thrive on. Something else that I wanted to factor in, if you are planning on using credit card points to help you travel, make sure you accumulate those credit card points while you still have a job. I was trying to accumulate credit card points and hit the minimum spend and do all those things while I wasn't working. And it's so much easier to do that before you decide to take your leave of absence. So if you know this is the time that you're deciding that you want to resign and you want to leave your job later this year at the end of 2024, then in the meantime you need to get those travel credit cards, hit the minimum spend, pay off your travel credit cards, right? So that you're actually reaping the benefits. So when it comes time for you to leave your job in December of 2024, you have all those stacked up and you can book your travel, you can pre-plan, versus me where I was going on the fly because I didn't accumulate my travel credit card points at the time. So yeah, that's something else you want to factor in. If you want TSA pre-check or global entry or lounge access, some of those cards require you to do those things in advance. So I started traveling February of that year, but I didn't get global entry, even though I got the credit card and stuff, until November of that year. And that was because one, it takes time for the credit card to process your, it takes time for them to give you your statement credit for those things. And then on top of that, global entry, TSA pre-check, or global entry specifically, had a really, really long wait time to get an appointment and to actually get your stuff approved. So those are some things you want to track. Those are some things you want to bear in mind. How are you going to make sure that you have all your flights pre-booked and all that? As much as you can do in advance, I would try to do this. I would say all of my flights from May of that year until the end of the year were funded by credit card points. I had 2 Chase credit cards and an Amex card, and the Amex actually was a Hilton card, so I got to use that for my hotels from June moving forward. So that was definitely a perk, but I still had to apply for those cards, meet the minimum spend. And because I was taking from such a lump sum of money, like I said, it also added to the draining of finances. You need to give your job adequate notice. For me personally, I gave my job 2 months notice in advance, and even then I don't feel like I had made the transition as smooth as possible. That's actually one of my major regrets. Like, I feel like I could have been more active and supportive in the person who was taking my role after that. So highly recommend, if you know that you're going to be leaving your job, give them as much notice as possible. Something else I wanted to mention that it's actually a recommendation from one of my favorite YouTubers, Stephanie Perry Online, where she talks about women taking spring breaks and sabbaticals and traveling, and she like really supports Black women on their mission to live a like independent, free life, a life of ease, a life of joy and happiness. And something she does and she swears by is house sitting. So essentially there are different platforms that you can utilize to gain clientele, where you house sit for them, you take care of their pet or you take care of their plants while they're away, and essentially you get free accommodation in exchange for them getting their home taken care of while they're gone. I think that's a wonderful opportunity. Some of these homes are really beautiful. I signed up for it myself. I haven't actually done a house sit yet, but I did want to throw that idea out there because it could really save you money on booking hotels or hostels or booking Airbnbs, when you could really just stay in a local's home. And I think, one, that's another perk because you get to actually live like a local while you are there. Like, you get to see how they live, you get to enjoy that, you get to get a more grounded approach to traveling abroad that I think you probably wouldn't get otherwise if you were staying at a hotel. There are some other options. You're welcome to stay. You can do Airbnbs, you can do hotels. Personally, I did mainly hotels. You can do hostels, which I've done before, but I'm not particularly a fan of hostels, only because I like my privacy and I like to snore. So yeah. Fears and loneliness. When I told people, oh yeah, I'm solo traveling or I do this on my own, they'll be like, are you not scared? You don't feel lonely? You don't get worried? And I realized during my travels, you may be alone, but you don't necessarily feel lonely depending on where you are. Like, there are ways for you to solo travel while also still being in group environments and still meeting new people. So for me, that could be booking like a walking tour or a group tour, right, where you get to meet other people who are traveling. That could be meeting people at like popular tourist destinations. Like when I was in Luxembourg, I met a random girl who was taking a picture of another random girl at this like beautiful scenic overlook, and we ended up hanging out for the day. Then we ended up hanging out in Paris the following day, riding scooters. It was just such a fun time, just because I put myself out there and I was in places where you're in proximity to other people who are like you. So hostels are really great for that. You know, like tours are great for that, and you can meet people. I think also a great way to like meet locals is try to find activities that are off the beaten path. So for me, that means like Airbnb experiences. Those are really great. I've had a wonderful time with an Airbnb. I had a really great Airbnb experience when I went to Canada with my friends, where we basically booked this random guy. He took us jumping into waterfalls. We got to meet some locals who were there as well, who were like, wow, I'm really proud that you guys did this. And it was just such a fun experience, and I wouldn't have known to even go there. If you're afraid of being lonely or you're fearful of like safety, I do think there's a lot of things you can do, especially in this digital age, to help prevent that. First, you can meet people before you go. Like, join Facebook groups. If there is somebody who's going to be in that town, like there's tons of travel Facebook groups where you can meet people abroad. Like I mentioned, Stephanie Perry has one of those where Black women can meet up online on Facebook and communicate, hey, I'm gonna be in this place for this long. Anybody wanna go do this thing with me, right? Those are options. You can also get on dating apps. I've heard of people utilizing dating apps to kind of meet other locals and kind of get like a free tour guide while also going on a really cool date with somebody who you may vibe with. Before I travel somewhere, is I always ask my friends, do you know somebody who lives in this city or this area? And then I try to make it a point to meet their friends. So for example, I have a friend from Botswana and she had a friend living in Belgium. So when I got to Belgium, I said, put me in contact with her. We hung out, we had an amazing time. We took a road trip to Germany, and she literally ended up sleeping in my hotel the next day, all because I asked my friend, hey, put me on, like, if you know somebody in the area I'm going to, let me meet them, let me stay with them, you know? And I think you can really enjoy yourself with that. Making sure that you have a working device with Google Maps with cell service will make you feel assured. Having access to the local emergency numbers helps. there are like these devices you can put on like your hotel door to make sure nobody's trying to enter. These like little self or personal alarms, whistles, like things like that. If you really feel concerned about your safety, could really help out. Or you even put your feet in foreign land, do those things alone at home. I go to dinner by myself often while I'm here in the United States. I go to the movies by myself often. Like, if you're in the habit of doing things on your own, if you build the habit of doing things on your own, when you go abroad, it will be so much easier because none of these people know you don't really care. And I think a lot of it just comes with the perception of what are they gonna think of me, or what are people online gonna think of me. And honestly, if you want to do something, do not wait. I used to want to travel so bad. I would literally beg my friends to take trips with me. I'm not begging no more. Let me say that again. I ain't begging no more. And in fact, me deciding to travel on my own is what really made my friends get on board with traveling with me, because they're like, oh, she's gonna go. So either I want to join her or I'm not, you know? The personal growth I experienced. So I would say, one, I feel like my empathy increased a lot during my travels. I don't know, I felt way more in tune with myself. There is something about traveling on your own that really shows you who you really are. I feel like I'm my most authentic self when I'm traveling abroad, because when you are in your home country or around people you love and care about, they already have a perception or an idea of who you are, or like there are certain expectations and norms that you have to abide by. But when you're abroad and you have nobody that you know around you, and you are just like existing in the world, you get to find out who you truly are without the influence of others, without the perception or the judgment of people that you love and care about. And I think that was one of the main things I got. I realized I love very mundane things. I love taking a wonderful scooter ride or going on a bike ride. Like, I love seeing a beautiful view and having a decent meal. I don't need bougie 5-star reservations. I learned that I love to read and write postcards to myself. I did so much reading that year. I learned that I really, really love to make people laugh, right? If that's in a YouTube video, if that's in a short, if that's in, like, I don't know. I feel like my year of travel made me discover more about myself. And I don't think you need a year of travel to discover more, but I definitely think it helps accelerate that personal growth. I think a lot of the challenges I faced were like the mental roadblocks of, what am I doing here? What am I doing with my life? Especially, like I mentioned, I went through a quarter life crisis. And I think another mental challenge was, what if this doesn't work out for me? Like, I had a looming fear that I was going to be destitute after my year of travel, which wasn't the case. But like, it really scared me because I didn't want to be in a position where I couldn't provide for myself. And for a lot of people, especially if you come from a background where your families don't take year of absences, or they don't take leave of absence, they don't have the means to be able to travel for a full year, and you're the first person to do it, I felt a lot of anxiety around, what if this doesn't work out, you know? One of the other major lessons I learned from my travels is that we are all the same everywhere you go. We are all the same. We all eat, we all have our own language, we all have our own culture, right, that we hold dear to us. And it made me realize, like, our humanity, our shared humanity, our commonalities, and like, people are people, right? You can meet some of the kindest people wherever you go, you can meet some of the rudest people. It doesn't matter. Like, I think for me, I learned a lot about like what cultural values matter to me, what type of lifestyle I want to live, and where in the world that might be more feasible for me. I think my year of travel really was a dream come true. So glad I did it. I'm so glad. I hope this helped. Feel free to give this video a like. Also, leave a comment down below with some of your tips. I'm trying to reach 1,000 subscribers, so please, 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 please subscribe. I'm almost 500, so please subscribe.